Good morning, good morning. This is Jacqueline Richardson, MsjjDiamond, Jackie, Deja, whatever y'all call me. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I am. So I hope y'all all feel the same way. I'm thankful for being alive. And today I'm going to talk about some of my recent testimonies. I'm going to start with yesterday. As y'all know, recently I've been getting better, my allergies and stuff like that. So it's been a wonderful thing for me because I don't have to continue to take medicine. When you take medicine so much, it doesn't work after a while. So then you have to level up to something else. And my goals are to get off of the allergy medication and be able to deal with my allergies, naturally. With natural stuff, or just not eat what I'm allergic to, or try to get away from what I'm allergic to in the air outside. Well, yesterday, the clouds normally gives me a bad sinus attack. It likes put a lot of phlegm in my head. And yesterday, I was outside all day in the cloudy areas, and I didn't feel sick. I mean, I felt a little sick, but not enough to pop pills, because that's the cure for my allergies, Other than me building my immune system and keeping my immune system built. So that was a wonderful thing for me because when I first came to North Carolina, it was so bad I couldn't see, I couldn't drive. I was just so sick. But now, God has did something. I don't know what he did. That's why I say he's so powerful. Y'all don't understand why I believe in God so much, but this is why, because the things that he shows me. And I'm going to tell y'all about 2 testimonies that recently happened to me. Every week I get a new something that he's showing me. Every single week it's like, oh my gosh, he's overpowering me with grace and blessings, and it's like, wow. Sometimes you got to sit back and really analyze what's going on. I had one testimony I talked about on TikTok, I believe. Y'all can follow me on TikTok. I talked about this on TikTok. Now, I was driving the Amazon trucks, Prime van, and how I became to start driving the Prime van was because my old job at Frito-Lay wasn't trying to pay me, and they was acting real iffy, funny, and I said, well, maybe it's time, for me to go, So, y'all know how God works. I went driving around a corner. All of a sudden, this person said to me, well, come work with us. And I'm like, well, do they know that I left? I'm not messing with Frito too much anymore. Do they really know? No, they don't know. That's not a coincidence. Well, God, I was actually doing Instacart at the time. God sent them through my path. We was both delivering to the same house. And they led me to driving the Amazon van. Which I like the job. It's too fast paced for me. I love giving the people the customer service, getting their packages to them without them being broken. See, the reason why I did things a little bit different than the people that work there is because I am a big Amazon shopper. I buy something from Amazon at least once a week. Okay? So when I get my packages and the stuff is broken, the boxes are smashed, or the products is all tore up, leaking, or whatever the case may be, it makes me feel some kind of way. Or if I don't get my package properly, because if y'all remember, I was going through a big thing with Amazon over here where I live at. My packages will always wind up in the next building. Luckily, I knew the people, and the people wasn't the type of people that, steal or try to argue about a situation. And then it also happened to her as well. Well, her package came here, and I had to take the package over there. So, me going through all of these things with Amazon is why I focused on the customer service part of the job and not about how fast I can possibly do the job. I needed the job to be correct. If I was going to make that difference within that job, I had to analyze everything that I've been through, in order for me to make that difference. However, a couple of things happened to me while I was out there. A guy backed up into me and tried to make me believe that I ran into him. And I don't know if I told y'all about this, but he ran up on me with a knife. Right? Then he threw the knife. He said, "God, what am I doing?" And threw the knife in the trees. So I said, what's going on? So then I said, well, let me call the police and and my dispatch and let them know what's going on. He was like, no, don't call nobody. It was like a movie scene, y'all. It was crazy. Don't call nobody. You can't call nobody. I said, well, why? Because I don't have a license and I got drugs in the car. That's what he said, right? I said, oh, really? I said, oh. So what do you want me to do? Right? So he's looking at me. He's like, I don't know yet. And I was hoping he didn't say he wanted the packages that was in the car, in the vehicle. Because then it would have turned into a robbery. And I really would have had to report it. So I'm like, oh my God, what do he want? You know what I mean? I think he was thinking about it too. So then he said, you got any money? I said, well, I just started and I'm actually broke. All I got is $10 for lunch, for the week. And he said, okay, well, give me that. I said, you're going to take my lunch money. I said, but it's okay. So I gave him the $10, cashed that to him. He just wanted drugs. He went looking for stuff, and then not even where he threw the knife at. Because at first I thought he was looking for the knife that he threw. But he was over in the other corner with a flashlight. Matter of fact, when I pulled up, that's where he was. In the over there in the flashlight, with the flashlight looking in the trees. So that's why I didn't really pay no mind. I'm looking, but I'm like, okay, what is he looking for? But then he wound up right back over there after it was all said and done. So I guess he was looking for drugs he lost or whatever the case may be. But anyway, gave him the $10. That ended well, okay? Nobody was harmed. No, he didn't go to jail. I gave him, a couple of dollars, and we went on with our day. Oh, and I also prayed for him because he said, I need prayer. So I prayed for him. I prayed there, I stood there with him and prayed for him. And he told me, thank you so much. Thank you. I really need that prayer, and I went and got back in my truck and drove around the corner and called my dispatch because I didn't know what his next step was. I calmed him down, but I didn't know what his next step was. So I had to get out of there. I didn't want to be in sight, So I went around the corner and I called my dispatch. So I'm like, okay. Next issue I'll go through. I fall in a sewer hole. My shoe came off. It was dark. Nobody out there. The people are literally sitting in their living room. You know how some people in the suburbs don't have curtains. They have big, wide, open windows. Now, they're actually sitting in their living room watching TV. And I'm walking towards their door and fall inside the sewer hole. And when I fell, I hit my shoulder. I hit my side. But nobody knew anything. I was just out there. Good thing I had my phone on me. And you always have the phone from, the delivery phone, which does have access to calling for emergencies. But I was able to call my dispatch, get up out the hole, put my shoe on, deliver the package, but I was in pain. So I got through that, got home. Luckily, it was right before the holidays, so I was able to soak my body in, y'all know what I soak my body in a Diamond way, and get myself back. It took me a couple of days, but I got back. So that was my second warning. Okay, now here's my third one. This was the ultimate. God said, now. It's time for you to leave the job now. I'm dropping off a package. I see a few guys, it looked like a plantation where a couple of houses on land, but it was actually a street name. So I deliver the package. I drive straight because the GPS told me to drive straight. But when I drove straight, wait. Let me go back. Well, no, I'm going to tell y'all, I got to go back. I'm sorry, because something else happened that day. Okay. I was turning into drive, and then I'll get back to that one. I was turning into drive, drop off a package, and the Prime van got stuck in a ditch. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So this man pulls up. I believe his name was Mark, Stanley, North Carolina. And he said, this always happens, and I always help the guys, girls get out of the ditch. So you want me to help you? Now, technically, I really didn't want him to help me because it's not my vehicle. However, I said, I don't want him to damage their vehicle, But he said, this happens all the time, And that saying what's that saying that they use? I forget the saying, but y'all know when that story about when the lady was saying she was in the ocean or something, and no, it was a flood. I'm sorry, it was a flood. It's a story. I don't know if you ever heard the story, but it was a flood, and they kept sending people to save her, and she kept saying, I'm waiting on God. But God was sending people to save her. And she wound up losing her life because she didn't follow the word of God and have faith in the word of God. So the same with me with the vehicle. I chose the fact of getting in trouble because I let somebody else pull out the vehicle if he caused damage. I looked at both factors before I told him yes. I said, okay, I can get in trouble for letting him pull it out. However, he said he's done this before, so he knows what to do. And I've seen it done before. So I said, okay, I'm going to have faith on this one. And I said, Jehovah, I'm going to have faith on this one. Let's do it. He pulled me right up out that hole. And I went right back to work with I was like maybe 10 minutes delayed. Okay, so I was blessed on that. Then I run into the guy that wanted to shoot me up because I drove the way the GPS told me to drive. Now, when he threatened me, first he was calling me all kind of names, and then he was saying he was going to call a job. And I'm like, go ahead, call him. This is my truck number. My name is Jacqueline Richardson. You can call. I can't help what computers do, sir. I told him, I said, I can't help what computers do. This is the way of the world today. We live by computers. So they make mistakes. We're caught up in the realm of their mistake. So he's still going on and going off. And I'm like, okay, it's dark out here. I'm unsafe. I don't know these people. Now he wants to shoot me. I'm going to get my gun. So he went and been down by the side of the house and ran over there, started pointing and stuff. And his wife or daughter came out and stood in front of the truck. And I'm trying to turn the truck around so I can get up out of there. But the point that I'm trying to make, and this is why it's a testimony, because he could have shot me. He could have shot up the truck. The moment that he was pointing at me, and his wife or daughter walked over to the van, my daughter texted me, and I saw her name just flow down my phone. And I'm like, oh my God, my baby. So I'm really trying to get out of there, you know. I've never been in, I wasn't in fear at first. But when I saw my daughter's name come down my phone, it put me in fear. I don't know if y'all ever been through that. That was God telling me, I need you to deal with this quickly. Because it just went down my phone. You know, when somebody texts you and then it'll come down and then it'll go away. That's how it went down. And it was like God was talking to me. Egypt is waiting on you. I need you to deal with this quickly, as swift as possible, and get out of here. It's not much time, in other words. You know what I mean? Because the wife was standing there and he was ranting and raving and his other family members and stuff. And I just, and I got stuck. See, God was preparing me because I got stuck earlier that day. But I was just stuck in mud versus being stuck in a ditch. So God was trying to tell me that being out here in these country roads at night, you might get stuck. And your baby might need you. This is not for you. It's not for everybody. Especially when you have a child and you're a single parent, you know. Even though I was out there for her, you know, to make sure she keep a roof over her head. We have lights. We have whatever we need, you know. However, my daughter may be alone for too long because I might get stuck. Or I might get hurt. So my lesson and my testimony, I learned my lesson. But my testimony was, He allowed me to live. For the grace of my child. I was messed up for about 2 days mentally. You know, I came straight home. I hugged my baby. I cried for about 5 minutes straight. You know, one of them hard cries. And I just held her, you know, and I said, you know, I might have not made it back here tonight, you know. And she was washing the dishes, you know. And that was God trying to teach me not only to value my daughter's life, but to value my own. Sometimes we don't have to go out there and hustle and bustle so much because God will provide. That was my test that I had to go through. That's why I had to now give it to you guys. So y'all understand what a testimony is. It's not that life is so hard. Sometimes God puts us through things to teach us stuff, to give us a lesson. Not everything is for everybody. However, there's always a lesson that needs to be taught throughout it. Now, let me tell y'all my other testimony the day before Christmas. This one really blew my mind, y'all. I tell you, every week, God is showing me something else. He gave me a test this week. That's my sinuses. I don't know about anything else coming this week, okay? But we'll see. I was at the Sam's Club. Now, me and a couple of other organizations work together here in Charlotte. And this is what we do. We become one, you know, as unity, and we work together, and, you know, that's just what it is. That's the way it's supposed to be done. So God set us, and I just seen him yesterday. I seen him the day before that. Okay. So it's like I'm seeing him 3 days back to back. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't expect him to be there because, normally he's there early and I come in, I'm coming in late. So I'm walking around, shopping. Me in Egypt, we trying to get our crab boil going. So we walking around and, looking around and, getting our stuff. And I see him. And he tells me, I got somebody on the phone that's going through DV, domestic violence. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, okay. Is she okay? Like, cause domestic violence can be a terrible thing. Meaning physical violence, can be very bad sometimes with domestic violence. Children being in a way, of harm. It can look ugly in the end, So we take that type of thing very, very serious when somebody calls us or says, I'm being hurt by my maid or someone, even the states, different states, they take that thing very serious about domestic violence because people can literally lose their lives. So he's worried, you can see it in his face, that he's worried about this person. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? So he said, I don't have no space to take her right now because he owns a housing, to help people, but he didn't have the space. And of course, it's the day before Christmas, so all of the other big organizations are closed. So there's no one to really help. So I said, you know what? I said, I'm going in on the faith of God. I'll take her. Only thing I'm concerned about is her sharing locations. Like with her mate, because we do this new thing. Just to be safe, we share locations so that way if anything happens, our mates, our children know where we are. Just like when I was working with Amazon, my daughter knew everywhere I touched down, and dispatch knew everywhere I touched down because we have to share locations to be safe. It's not saying that something won't happen at that location, but at least they know your last location. Okay? So I was afraid that, if she shares locations with her mate, he will find her and come to my home, with the nonsense. And I'm like, okay, that's the only thing I'm worried about. But you know what? I'm going in on the faith of God. If she needs the help, we don't want to see no kids hurt. We don't want to see her hurt. I'm going in on the faith of God. And I said, to myself, like, I said, Jehovah, what am I doing? I was having faith in him. I went in blinded, okay? I just put all my faith in God at that point. So then he says to me, well, do you want to talk to her, so y'all can try to figure out how you can get her out of this situation? I said, yeah, let me talk to her. So I'm talking to her on the phone. And, we talking, and then I decided to pray for her. And as I was praying for her, I went blind for about 30 seconds. And I couldn't understand it. I even wrote it on Facebook, like, do anybody know why I went blind? But it took me a few days to understand it. I prayed and prayed, and, I said, Jehovah, please tell me, why did you blind me for that moment? Please tell me, I need to understand. He gave me an answer, and this was my test. I didn't look down on her. My theory was to get her out of that situation so I don't hear a bad story. I went in with blind faith. Okay, meaning I couldn't see the outcome clearly. I couldn't see it. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But I had faith in God that I didn't just say no. Like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I went in with blind faith. Like, God, if this is your will, let it be. But guess what? Once I talked to her, you know how we as human beings, we become overwhelmed, with life situations and, and then especially women, we go through a lot of changes hormonally. So our bodies sometimes take over and we might break down over a situation, even though the situation is there. We overlook it for so long. That's why they say talk about your issues and talk about what's good. That's why therapy is the number one key, people. And this is why we say talk about your issues, go to therapy, go to counseling, whatever you need to get them issues out. Because what you do is you bottle up all those emotions and then you have a breakdown. Okay? It may not be a breakdown to where you got to go to the hospital and stay there for 30 days, whatever, how long they keep you because you can't function. It's just a breakdown to where you just need to get all of those emotions out. Well, once I talked to her, she calmed down, prayed. Y'all would never believe this. Her father's a pastor. And I was like saying to myself, like, okay, she's already brought up in, God's realm, So what's wrong? God was leading us together to help get understanding. I talked with this woman that same night, and we even text the next day. And there was some things I need clarity on in my life. And there was things that she needed clarity on in her life. Our conversation got so deep that it was scaring us. Okay? But do you see how God made the connection through blind faith? Sometimes God will put people in your lives that you may need and they may need you too. And throughout that situation, I made a new friend. So do you see what God does? Sometimes we need to go in with blind faith and believe that God has control over this journey. That's what we got to do sometimes. The true believers, this is why we continue to stay blessed. Because sometimes we go in with blind faith. And then there's a reward at the end. A reward is not always money, people. They always think that, people always think you get a reward. It's not always money. Sometimes it can be someone that you can talk to. Sometimes it can be a person that has connections that you may need. But sometimes we have to go in with blind faith. And that was what God was teaching me. I know you don't trust a lot of people because of the things that they've seen. But these new people that I'm about to bring into your life, you got to go in with blind faith. And I will be at the end of that road waiting on you. And that's what he showed me. Now, I could have brought this woman into my home. And her husband could have came. It could have been a bunch of chaos, Only God knows what could have happened, and that's what my mind was. But I said, if it's God's will, I'm even the person that I work with, from the other organization. He looked at me and he said, "It's up to you." And I said, "I'm a strong believer in God, and I believe that this didn't happen for a reason, because I'm thinking about the whole scenario, how I just see him, and, the situation occurred, and DV is something that I've been through several times, mentally and physically. So I do have some experience on how to deal with it. I've been to DV classes and, all kind of things when it came to domestic violence, and learned a lot, and I implemented some of that stuff in my life, and even taught my kids, so I have a lot of experience in domestic violence. So that's why I said, okay, well, I'll take this one, and God got me. I know he got me. But in the back of my head, I was saying, this can get ugly. So are you ready for this battle? Okay, you rested. You've been home for 2 days. You rested. Because when you're dealing with DV situations, you got to deal with children that might be traumatized. You got to deal with the actual person that's been through it, traumatized or physically hurt. It's a lot that comes with it. So I had to be prepared mentally. And I said, okay, well, I'm prepared mentally. But the rest of this I'm giving to God. I said, because I don't know. I'm just going to give it to God. I went in with blind faith. And that's my testimony. And I didn't even have to take this woman in, because she has a big, beautiful home. She just needed someone to talk to and get those feelings and emotions out, so she can see things clearly. So you see how God works? This is why he gives us tests. Because we need to learn things. Something he needed me to see. And what he needed me to see was blind faith. Don't analyze the situation. I just need you to have faith in me. Just like when we drive in our cars, or take a train ride, or plane ride. Those that believe in God have blind faith. Okay, I believe God gonna get me to the destination. And untouched. No bodily harm. No stress. We're going in with blind faith. So I wanted to tell y'all these things, because God moves mountains, people. He moves mountains. Just like when COVID came about. They shut the country down, except for the essential workers. I became an essential worker because I was out shopping for people that couldn't come outside. But I went in with blind faith, saying, I know God is going to cover me through this, that I'm not going to catch COVID, that I'm going to be able to service these people and help them eat while they're stuck in the house. Help them survive while they're stuck behind closed doors. My mate at the time, he says, you going out there? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going out there. With blind faith. So I've been using blind faith for a long time. I just didn't know what it was. But I didn't recognize it until this particular day, Christmas Eve. I didn't recognize it. And I guess the reason why God had to give me that last test for me to recognize it, because he took my sight. I couldn't see the end. I couldn't see the destination. That was my test. He said, she don't even know that she'd be going in with blind faith. She truly believes, and I do. This is why I went out there and serviced the people throughout the COVID. And God covered me. He said, she's going in with blind faith, and I'm going to cover her and make sure she doesn't get sick, that she's going to be okay while she's servicing these people. It wasn't forced. Okay? It wasn't forced. And that's what I need our government to understand. It wasn't forced for me to go out there and service the people. I'm not going to say unprotected, because I did wear a mask and I did have hand sanitizer. I followed the rules of what our... So I want you to understand the difference between being forced to do something against your will and against God's will, and going in with blind faith. Because those nurses and doctors had a choice to say, you know what? They shut down the country. I really don't have to work, because I'm a resident of America, and they said they want us all to be indoors. They could allow the people to die. And a lot of them chose to put their lives on the line for the people that were dying. That was our test and our lesson throughout this COVID. And until people understand that, we call them essential workers. But why are they essential workers? They literally put their lives on the line, knowing it was a possibility that they can lose their lives, because they was first hands on with these people. Now, with me being an essential worker, I was still first hands on with the people that didn't want to follow the rules, but not hands on with the sick. So they was being forced, and this is why we need to follow what they're asking us to do so we can get rid of this thing. Because these people are losing their lives more than the people on the ground. These nurses and doctors, they're getting sick. Even being vaccinated. When they opened back up the country, they opened it up slowly. They didn't know what the destination was going to be. But they did it because they knew that we had to live. Because there was some people out here that was still living and alive. And we all went out there under blind faith that we're going to be okay. Some people wore masks, some people didn't. But that's why I wanted to share my testimonies with y'all. When we're going through tests through God, you have to recognize what God is doing. And He wants us to come together. He wants us to bear down and come together and stay together and love one another. This is what He has shown us throughout this COVID thing. Whether y'all know it or not. Because some of y'all is just living. Y'all alive. Some of y'all just alive. Y'all not living. Y'all alive. So y'all don't understand. But we have to make the decision to love and help. And not be forced to do it. Do it from the heart. So those has been my last few testimonies. I don't know what other stuff that God is going to teach me. He always got something new that he needs to show me. And I like it. Because I like learning. Because learning and knowing keeps you from worrying. Keeps you at ease. Keep your mind at ease, your body at ease. Because stress can kill you. It's just like, I was talking to, matter of fact, I was going to bring this up as well. Just like the Army vets, Navy vets, and those that's in the military as we speak, Marines, they also go in with blind faith to serve their country. This is why we have to respect them to the highest. Because they're not being forced. They are saying to themselves, whatever God has in store for me, let it be thy will. Some make it home and some don't. But we still have to honor these guys. Because they stepped up to the plate. Somebody has to do the job. Just like when we go, I was laughing because I was saying to myself, maybe I go back to CNA, because y'all know I was in school trying to get my CNA license again. Completed school, but then I couldn't get an appointment to do my test. So I'm like, okay, maybe God didn't want me doing this no more. But I would have had to be with the sick. Might even have to change diapers. And do all kinds. But somebody has to do the job. And that's just the way it works. Okay? It's in the Bible. Everybody had a job to do. Everybody. The same with in a family. Everybody has a job to do. And God breaks it down in the Bible. What his intentions were when he made man and what his intentions was when he made woman. And when they had children. Everyone has a job to do. Even in the Muslim religions, the Jewish religions, it doesn't matter what religion, we all follow one God and we all have a job to do. Some people feel incomplete when they can't do that job. But if God is not putting so much on you, it could be because he knows you're tired and you need to fall back for a little while and accept within blind faith that everything is going to be okay. So this is why God gives us tests. Because he wants us to come closer to him. And sometimes we need to be alone so we can understand these things. We need to experience certain things alone. I mean, I could sit here all day and talk to y'all about testimonies and things that has happened to me that was amazing, that came out with a very good outcome. But if you don't understand those things that you're being tested on and why, you lose sight of life. And that's something that we don't want to do, is lose sight of life. That's why we're being tested on a constant basis. God keeps us on our toes. That's why I tell people we don't need all that extra that y'all be throwing out there, the drama. No, we don't need all that extra. Because God keeps us on our toes. on a daily basis. We're fighting the devil's people every single day of our lives. This is why the Christians are coming closer and closer together. This is why they're constantly teaching. Because we have to fight these devils every single day of our lives. You got to remember, there's two types of people out here. You have the Christian people, the religious people, and then you have the devils. Those that just think about self-being within them and not everybody else, which is love. This is why God teaches us what he teaches us, so we can understand. I'm done with this podcast, y'all. I just wanted to get that out there, so y'all can get a little bit of understanding on why God gives us tests and why we have testimonies, so we can tell somebody else how great God is, and hope and pray and have faith that they will come closer to God. You know, God is so powerful, y'all. You know, and children, I want to throw this out there too. Children learn within leadership. We don't want to be controlling. We want to be leaders. And the way we lead is by others seeing what you can accomplish or what you have accomplished while leading by an example. I'm going to use this for an example. You know, some of my daughter's friends and some of the kids that come and be around, they weren't praying type of kids because their family is not the church type of going people. And that's okay. They have their reasons of why they do what they do. But when they come to my house or they're around me, we pray. So if they want to continue to come around, they have to deal with it. You know, and their parents have to deal with the fact that this is the type of environment that they put their children in. Well, one of my young ones that wasn't praying in the beginning amazed me. You know. And we was about to eat. We was actually in the car. You know, every time I get in the car, I pray with the kids, you know, and they even have testimonies because they get in the back seat, you know, because they being chauffeured, you know, by me, you know. So they get in the back seat. They don't want to put on a seatbelt. Now, the first thing I tell them, put your seatbelt on. They don't want to listen. Then I stopped short because of a car in front of me, and they go flying forward. And they be like, where's the seatbelt? Where's the seatbelt? See, God is putting you to the test because I told you to wear your seatbelt. Well, God got these girls, these babies praying. You hear me? You see how God works? He got them praying over their food. He got them praying when we get in the car. And then I'm so messed up. I was praying the other day. One of the ones wasn't in the car, and I was waiting for her amen. I wouldn't pull off until I heard her amen. And then my daughter said, well, Mommy, she's not here. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm so used to it. You know what I mean? So you get used to praising God, and that's what God wants. He wants us to get used to showing him that love because he's going to give us what we desire, what we're asking for. It just may not be in your time. It's going to be in his time. But best to believe, he's going to keep you safe throughout that journey. So I know he's working in my life, especially when he got the kids listening to gospel and praying and making sure we pray even when I forget. I know he's working. And our job is to continue to tell people how God has delivered us through the test. This is Jacqueline Richardson, MsjjDiamond, Jackie, Deja, whatever y'all call me. I love y'all, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.